I was just going to ask a quick follow-up, and that is, if there is retrenchment at Kutztown or other state system universities, what's the effect on the students, Steve?
Well, that one's a tricky question and a little hard to answer, Charlie. We think that the universities have a commitment to the students to finish out their programs. So in these programs they're talking about at Kutztown, that they're talking about retrenchment and eliminating faculty members, they have to maintain the faculty to get the people who are majoring in those programs through and graduated. We think they have a contractual, they have if not a contractual obligation. If it's not a legal written obligation, they have at least an orally binding obligation to finish out the program. So I think in terms of their majors, they'll be able to finish. It's not going to be the same program, obviously, that they started in. It's not going to be so fulsome. They're not going to have the same choices. But the downside for the other students is the way it's going to change the dynamic of the university and potentially their class size. One of the possibilities is it's going to change advising assignments. Kutztown's done away with 2 sports in the last year to save some money. But one of the concerns we have is that with sports come athletic trainers, and one of the items on the list was athletic trainers. So obviously those student athletes were concerned that the coverage may not be there that they need to take care of them physically in case of injury and prep work. So,
well, I understand that Kutztown was viewed as one of the most financially stable institutions of all of the 14, correct?
Yeah.
So is this, does this bode ill for the rest of the state-owned universities, or what do you think we're going to see here? A snowball effect?
You're right about Kutztown. It's a surprise, and we have yet to really have a good answer why Kutztown, because when you talk about the finances and the things they're talking about in terms of their financial issues, well, these are all assumptions that are coming out of the Dixon Center here in Harrisburg. All 14 are following the same set of guidelines and assumptions for budgeting the next few years. So why is it that Kutztown is the one out of the 14 that's out in front right now? I don't have a good answer to that at this point. There's been concern at Kutztown about the shape of their programs, so I don't know how much that is in effect. One of the big issues on campus academically has been the pursuit of business school accreditation, which is costly, and I know President Ceballos is committed to that, so there may be a resource reallocation involved here. So, but you're right, it's tricky to say why is it that it's Kutztown, but pretty clearly if it can happen at Kutztown, we have concerns at other institutions. The big thing at Kutztown, 2 big things, is they've grown about 10% in terms of their enrollment over the last 5 years, and they have the lowest faculty cost of any place amongst the 14th. So why is it them when there are other places you look at those kinds of numbers and say, well, their enrollment growth is smaller, their faculty cost is higher, are they coming next? Yes, we're very concerned. Right?
Steve, I have a real hard time getting my mind wrapped around this whole situation because particularly in light of some of the findings which were presented at APSCUF's conference, which was reported on several months ago by Behind the Headlines, some points were brought out that we're at an all-time enrollment. Right. We're in the middle of one of the worst recessions in American history, and I've always thought that during recessions when unemployment is growing that people need to be retrained, people need to be prepared for new vocations, that you want to emphasize education, that you want to really bolster your educational framework to prepare for the future. And here we find that there are announcements that we're going to go just the opposite way. It seems to be a counter to all the common sense I've ever heard in public policy, Steve.
Well, and I think you're right on target there. It's very confusing. 13 of the 14 institutions had record enrollments in the fall. The enrollment for the state system was up 4%. It's the 12th consecutive year the system enrollments set a new record. So it's not like we have a consumer problem. We have plenty of customers, enough people turning the turnstiles. We also have some issues with state funding. Kutztown, in their press release about their financial difficulties, mentioned the fact that the state support has gone down $2,000 per student over the course of the last decade. So they were citing that as a practical problem that was one reason they're in the hole that they're in. And the state appropriation this year is smaller than it's been since 2006-2007 without the stimulus money. One thing APSCUF's involved in is a coalition amongst the public sector labor unions in an attempt to help with revenue enhancement. And it has a great acronym too, CLEAR. And
what does that stand for?
Oh, yeah, you would do that, right? Yes, the Coalition for Labor Engagement and Accountable Revenues.
Okay.
And but CLEAR is really,
Yeah,
we all like the acronym
Yeah.
a great deal.
And the purpose of that
Well,
association?
we've been in the governor's office a couple times talking to them about how to balance the budget and how to do so without any more service cuts, because clearly the Kutztown situation lays out that there are services that you're going to lose when the state budget is reduced. And so we think that there needs to be revenue enhancement of some form because the pie's not big enough. People are not going to get the services that they want, both higher education and all those things that people want, whether it's arts or libraries or welfare offices. All these things are potentially reduced unless we make the pie bigger. And so we've been pursuing that. And the Kutztown situation really fits into that because it seems that they have issues with how much they've been financed. And you're right, clearly the stimulus package said let's invest in higher education and fill in to make sure the state government doesn't cut what we're putting into higher ed in these tough times. And it seems to have done a good job. I think everybody's enrollments are up and their applications for next year, from what I hear, are up quite a bit because these are times when people don't want to or can't go out and find a job with 9%, 10% unemployment. So investment in higher ed is a good idea.
It doesn't sound like there's going to be any real easy solutions, but it sounds like APSCUF is making a lot of effort to at least look towards the future and try to solve these financial woes.
Well, yeah, I think we have lots of ways to go here. I think lots of the assumptions that are being made about the 2011 budget and the retirement cliff, as they call it, because the state employment retirement service is underfunded at this point. All these things have solutions, and we've been working on the Hill to talk to people about how to make the least painful ones that we can. And I think it's a good opportunity for us to get in some dialogue and make some policy changes that could be helpful.
Okay, thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you.
Good luck. We'll be watching.
Yeah.
And hope to have you back very soon.
Okay.
We'll be back again next week with a new edition of Behind the Headlines. Mara and I will see you then.